Weiner says he will make a decision in the next, quote, few days or weeks as to whether or not he'll run for mayor. In his words, Richard, it's getting late early.
I asked this yesterday, now having seen the full context of the interview. Did he do himself more good or did he do himself more harm? I mean, certainly he couldn't get away from the scandal that, you know, basically forced him to resign, but it's so fresh on minds here. I think he asked a lot of the questions that everybody wants to know. And by him saying, yeah, there could be something else out there, you know something else is going to come out if he runs. You know, it's going to get back out there.
Well, it depends on how you look at this. Number one, the tabloids, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that was going to happen for the next couple of weeks anyway. I really believe that Mr. Weiner did himself a solid by saying what he did. Number one, once the Weiner for mayor train leaves, you want that train to keep going and not be derailed. If you did an interview and I asked you that question point blank and you looked at me in my face and lied, the first thing I'm going to do when a woman pops up or another picture is you and I are going to pull that clip where he lied. So now he, you know, you could say he's being quite frank. He's being honest. Look, this could be out there. And I really think, depending on what it is, should it come out, depending on what it is, I really think he did himself a solid by doing this now. And I really believe that Anthony Weiner could be the next mayor of New York City.
First of all, Andrew, it's almost impossible to go through and just say his name and not lead to a bad pun here, but we'll try it for the next few minutes. That said, yes, that said, the appetite for forgiveness, we always talk about it. It's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a New York thing. We see moral failings all the time. Mm-hmm. But we didn't see it like this before. And in many ways, I speak to people who thought that this was worse than an actual affair. And such a betrayal many people felt by it. And the lying after it. Can that be wiped away with contrition?
I don't think it can be wiped away. I think it can be minimized so that other things are fresher in people's minds when they're considering Anthony Weiner than necessarily the lying, which I think was worse than what he actually did. Dominic was talking about the tabloids and the Daily News already getting into it today. Notice we've stayed above board.
The headline writers, by the way, dying to go to heaven when this story came back. Yeah.
Right, but it's, look, I thought the contrition it felt genuine to me. The emotion that he conveyed, we're not used to seeing that side of Anthony Weiner. And I think that does him a lot of good. And I think part of his response to the question of whether there are any more pictures out there shows you, you know what, I've already talked to my wife about this, so it's not like it's going to rock the boat at home, but it does. My first reaction was it's like a starter's gun for reporters. We hear that there might be more photos out there, and the question becomes, well, let's find them.
But you know, another thing for me, Dominic, is politicians are different. They have different strengths, different weaknesses. He was always one of the best guys I knew on his feet. And extemp, smart, quick, but aggressive. That was his style, aggressive. We even saw that in playing some of the clips when he got challenged by the press after it. He went after people. You take that away from him, and I think he can't play that card right now. He can't be the aggressive guy with his hanging over his shoulder. He's still got to be the apologetic guy. He's not. He doesn't bring the same assets to the table if he's got to be, you know, I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
Excellent question. He has to be more humble
and that's not his DNA.
And more low-key right now. Right now. But after the first debate, where Weiner's personality shines through, and he will be head and shoulders over the other candidates, he could return to the Anthony Weiner that we know. You know, Andrew just brought up a good point. And we've discussed this before. I've said to you, whenever I've done interviews, the part that bothers me the most, it impacts the families, the wives the most. Yeah. And that's the part that gets to me because they really take this personal. Weiner's a big boy. He can take anything that I'm throwing at him.
Well, you bring it to my last question for both you guys, which is, the guy, obviously, I have no personal knowledge of it, but the marriage survived. They got a beautiful, healthy little kid. Why do these guys want to get back into this? He's still not an odds-on favorite. He'd be an underdog. He's going to be spending money, albeit in the kitty here, and he's got to wake up to headlines on the tabloids like we saw yesterday, clips from your interview everywhere you go. Why do they need that in their lives?
Well, one, you said he. It's not just he.
They.
Often it's a team, and it's the love of the game.
But he invited this back. He would have been in the headlines unless he chose to do it.
Believe me, and I haven't talked to Weiner's wife, but believe me, and this is an assumption, she wants him to be mayor. And number two, what I was going to say is that the part that bothered me last night was that Weiner's wife had to watch the interview that we did, and it kind of bothered me.
Oh, she was there? She was in the room?
No, she wasn't in the room, but I'm sure she was watching it on television after it went national.
You know what? He was a congressman when they met and a potential future mayoral candidate. That's what he does. And she knows that going in, and she might be privy to that.
She's a politician as well.
And she might be privy to that portion of his personality better or more so than other wives or spouses of politicians, having worked so closely with Hillary Clinton for as long as she did, and knowing some of the dirty laundry in that relationship.
That Hillary, post the Lewinsky affair, wanted to get back in, and obviously she left a highly popular U.S. senator, she left a highly popular Secretary of State, and she's the odds-on favorite to be the next president of the United States if she so chooses. So it obviously worked for her, but I was even surprised at the time that she'd want to do it again. But I guess it's in the blood. Once you get this in your system, it's really hard to let it go. All right, great job, Dominic. All right, we take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to focus here to when it comes to the Boston bombing, the investigation, and now new news here that's coming out indicating that the alleged Boston bombers were headed to New York. The mayor spoke out on this as well today. We'll have the very latest straight ahead.